What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. Real quick, just before we start this video, it's going to be sponsored by GGEsports.com. On their website they host a game that's been a ton of fun to play alongside watching League Esports. You play as an analyst predicting the outcome of games, but it's not a betting website. You don't use any real money, just their in-game currency, which you can get for free and use to win real prizes. And myself and a bunch of other YouTubers like my boys Red Mercy and Fresco are going to be competing for the viewers for you guys to win some major prizes to give away later on. So definitely stay tuned for next week and maybe leave some recommendations on which esports team I should bet on in the comment section below. And I'll be going over some directions on how to use their site at the end of the video. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. We spend a lot of time digging for information on upcoming and canceled champions, but something that we've never exactly taken a look at before is finding out about champions that Riot has expressed interest in but never actually started official development on, or at least said that they started development on them. So today's list of champions is something that is exactly that. It's some really awesome champion concepts that Rioters themselves have said that they want to design, or perhaps see someone else design them. Just concepts that they want to see come to life, but so far haven't exactly seen any time in development thus far. So our first batch of champions are some concepts from Riot Groovy Lord. To kick us off, we have a fan favorite archetype that hasn't been really explored all that much in League of Legends. And of course I'm talking about vampires, and the closest thing we have to it I guess is Vladimir. His name, appearance, and particular skill set all kind of suggest that Vladimir is Riot's own design on sort of a vampire, or at least inspired by, but it's definitely quite far from the standard neck-biting archetype of the character. It's true that Vladimir is pretty gloomy and he does have an obsession with blood, but Riot could definitely gain something by introducing a real, true to fantasy, the more traditional style vampire, maybe in the form of a fast and strong assassin with regenerative powers, but with a very clearly defined weakness. Next up, we have Groovy Lord's wish for a new scythe-wielding champion. In fantasy, scythes are usually the weapon of Grim Reaper-esque figures, and the previous scythe-wielding concept of Kamachi, a cancelled champion, did eventually end up as Thresh, who I guess kind of has a scythe, but I mean, it's a scythe attached to, a ranged weapon, so it doesn't really fit the bill there. That said though, Thresh often feels more like a hook champion than a true scythe champion, so there's definitely some fresh ground to explore there for sure. And Riot are pretty good at making sure that you can guess what a champion does by looking at them, and in the case of a scythe, that would probably be something in the form of like big sweeping cone attacks that maybe deal, quite a lot of damage, but maybe with the ability to duck or dive away from them. Of course, the Grim Reaper character type also comes with the potential to unleash some deathly magic, so maybe one day we'll see some kind of magic caster or melee hybrid that feels closer to a traditional Soul Reaper type than our current lineup of Thresh and Kindred. The next champion desired by Riot Groovy Lord sounds a little bit more like an inside joke than a gap in the current champion roster, but it's actually probably my favorite champion on the list that we're taking a look today, and the concept is definitely really awesome. The idea he had was for another champion with a sniper rifle, but this time with a little bit of a catch. As soon as something entered closer to melee range within 550 units of them, they were forced to switch to a secondary weapon, battle knives. Although there's a contrast between favoring both a sniper rifle and battle knives, it does really introduce a super cool character to the game, a champion that alternates and behaves differently based on whether they are fighting up close or fighting from a distance, and this has a lot of really interesting gameplay elements. For example, against certain team comps you might favor using the sniper rifle rather than the battle knives, but that kind of opens up a bunch of strategies between you and the enemy team. They want to get into melee range to force you to use your knives, but you want to keep your distance. And although the design for this concept isn't exactly all that fleshed out, it's definitely one that could be really fun to mess around with. The next champion concept we have was an assassin kit that Riot Groovy Lord actually fully fleshed out but never was able to test. The idea here was an assassin that was based entirely around stealing your opponent's stats. For example, he'd be able to dash through you to take your movement speed, attack you to take your armor, or maybe use his ultimate to steal your AD and AP and then kill you with it. It would be a really high risk but also high reward playstyle, since you'd be really vulnerable if you ever got caught out before stealing stats from anyone, but it would also introduce some really snowbally elements since you would both nerf an enemy while buffing yourself, so if you got a lead you could actually really really dominate the game. Although the design might be a little bit broken, that's an assassin champion that would definitely be super fun to play. Our final champion from Riot, Groovy Lord, I know we've actually got quite a lot from him, but he gave us some really awesome concepts. Anyway, this one is all about pushing the Demacian style character to the extreme in the form of an Inquisitor type character. In the game's lore, Demacians are seen as noble and lawful, with a keen sense of honor and justice. As with any faction though, there's some that are going to be a little bit more extreme in their views, and this is where the Inquisitor style character comes in. Someone that is in charge of seeking out what they view as heresy and eliminating it. It really pushes the core ideas of Demacia a lot further than the, do-gooder nature of champions like Jarvan and Garen, and you can definitely imagine a character like this actually being quite evil in their actions, despite doing it in the name of justice. Groovy Lord described this concept with a single line, a character that runs around screaming, "I will purge you!" And, essentially that gives off a pretty good idea about what you'd expect the character to be like. It would actually be really cool to see because it would definitely make the whole Demacia vs Noxus thing a lot more intense. Our next concept comes from Riot Ezreal. Now, Ezreal had originally been trying to find a way to make the shaman archetype work in League of Legends. And where you have shamans, you have totems. And as far as fantasy is concerned, shamans and totems go quite hand in hand. And Ezreal's idea for a shaman champion possessed one as well. The idea was that you'd be able to throw down your totem anywhere on the map, and then continue casting abilities as normal with one major change. Instead of the abilities coming from the champion, they would come from your totem instead, regardless of how far away you were from the totem. So let's say, for example, you were maybe playing in the mid lane, you could wander into the enemy jungle, plop down your totem, and then head right back into lane, and then when you see the enemy jungler low on health moving between camps near your totem, you unleash all of your abilities directly onto his face. It's a pretty cool variation on the trap mechanic that gives the player a lot more control over how and when to take those engagements, and would open up a lot of really crazy and interesting strategies, and overall would definitely be quite a unique design for a character. The next design comes from Riot Ezreal again as well, and this concept is pretty cryptic. He mentioned that Riot does have a bunch of ideas rolling around if they ever wanted to do a panda champion. Now, not only does this express desire to make a panda champion a reality, but we also do know for a fact that pandas do love to roll around. So essentially, Ezreal wants to make a panda champion that rolls around all over the map, maybe squashing enemy champions in the process. But he didn't get too much into detail, so I wouldn't expect anything really in terms of development or stuff like that for this concept. Now, Ezreal's final concept for today's video is a design that has been definitely super requested by a lot of players that favor champions with higher mechanical skill requirements. Now, multi-clone characters are very popular in other MOBAs. We've got Meepo in Dota being the primary example of that concept, but currently Riot doesn't exactly have a system that works in the way of multi-unit control. Imagine a champion that is kind of just two characters where you control the two characters separately and you can kind of switch between the two. You would essentially have to control all aspects of your character simultaneously, so you could, for example, also have 3 clones, play one in each lane of the map, but all 3, the power budget's kind of separated individually. Definitely would not be easy to play by any means, but could be really powerful when played properly. And while Dota does have the advantage of like a real-time strategy control system that's a lot more similar and does allow for that, Riot's design for their champions doesn't really work, at least in its current form, for that type of champion, and it's pretty unlikely to be made into the game in the future, but it's quite unique, quite innovative, and could be really interesting, so who knows. The next concept for today was given to us by Riot Groovy Lord, but it is a concept that is currently being brainstormed by a different writer, Riot Org Bobo. Now, one of the lesser used archetypes that hasn't made it into League of Legends yet is kind of the sort of like old hag kind of witch character. Imagine a scary old witch or like a Baba Yaga type of character. Groovy Lord mentioned that it kind of felt odd to have not explored the aged archetype yet, and he definitely thinks it would be a great way to make the Shaman Champion a reality. The Shaman Champion that maybe Riot Ezreal was mentioning. One of the big reasons that it's probably hasn't been explored yet is that Riot wants wants to make champions that players really feel a connection with, that they can relate to, and a young, predominantly male demographic isn't typically going to be able to form much of a connection with a crazy old lady, that's for sure. Either way though, those were some of the champion concepts that Rioters want to bring to life. I mean, who knows, maybe we'll see some of them in the future, but they're definitely really cool to think about and explore, that's for sure. Looks like that's just going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching the video, everybody. I just wanted to take some extra time here at the end to explain how to play on our sponsor, GGEsports.com. You go onto the website, and after your account is set up, go to the Game Hall. Click on LOL near the side to go to the upcoming League of Legends games. Click on Bet Now, and you're taken to the area where you can wager on who will win or other things in the match. After you decide what you want to bet on, you can click on it to be taken to the confirmation screen to select just how much you want to bet, and you can confirm your decision after your selection. And definitely make sure to click the Join Now button on the home screen to make sure your scores are recorded on the leaderboards. Thanks again as always to GG Esports for supporting our content, and I'm looking forward to seeing if any of you guys can win some cool stuff on their website.